All right. So, we have covered on the Four Noble Truths. So, tonight and also on Friday night, then I will summarize all the things that we have spoken and we have discussed, and therefore we look into it, how this Four Noble Truths, they will be very helpful for the yogis, especially for the yogis, because here all my topics is something to do with the yogi's approach, how a yogi approach on all these Four Noble Truths. Now, we begin this talk on this Four Noble Truths from January the 18th. And also before that, there was also a number of talks also. And there was a sporadic, not to say sporadic, I mean there's a different topics, different titles and so on. And then we start off with this Four Noble Truths. So here with this Four Noble Truths, since it's quite take a number of months for us to cover, and therefore it's good that we summarize everything to consolidate, to see them, how this Four Noble Truths help us in our practice. Okay, now let us go to the screen sharing. Okay, this is the one I want to share. Okay, let me. All right. First, we look at this Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths here are Chatu Arya Sachani. Four Noble Truths, the first one is Dukkha, origin of Dukkha. The third one is cessation of Dukkha. And the fourth, the path leading to the cessation of Dukkha, or the way leading to the cessation of Dukkha. Now, in this word, the Dukkha, from the very start, I don't translate it as suffering or unsatisfactoriness, because the word dukkha here, it is not equivalent in English, because it later will give you an idea that this dukkha is far more than what we think. Just here pain, there pain, here sick, there sick. No, it's much more than that, including your happiness, including your happiness, and so on. Hold on. Let me readjust the. Okay. So here we're going to look into the dukkha, but first of all, we need to see this dukkha from a perspective of when you want to not just understand the dukkha, but not to understand just the Four Noble Truths, but we need to understand the whole context. What is this Four Noble Truths for? Now, the first Noble Truth, the dukkha, is to be fully understood, is to be directly seen. The word is parinya. Now, you can find this Pali word as if you are keen, and also if you are doing Dhamma Chakkapawatana Sutta, the setting, the wheel, the turning of the wheel of Dhamma. You go through that sutta, or you go through those chanting, you will find these words inside there. And you find these words like parinya, pahatapa, sachikatapa, bhavitapa. So dukkha is to be fully understood, parinya. But here, for the sake of meditator, for the sake of yogis, it has to be, what it means is to be directly seen. Not by the eyes, but seen by the mind. Oh, the mind that is strong, clear. It has to be directly seen. Number two, the origin of dukkha, dukkha samudaya. This one is to be abandoned. Which is the origin of, what is the origin of dukkha? Then craving is the origin of dukkha. It is to be abandoned. Number three, Cessation of dukkha. Cessation here, another word is the nibbana. Dukkha nirodha. But usually when it comes into the talk, then it's connected to nibbana. So this is to be realized. To be realized here, it means that, well, nibbana is already there. It's just that you need that special consciousness, the path and fruition consciousness, to able to see or to able to realize nibbana, or the cessation of dukkha. So this one is to be realized. Now, for example, we cannot able to realize nibbana because if we do not have this path and fruition, we cannot see it. We cannot see those nibbana, we cannot see nibbana with our mundane senses or mundane consciousness. These are not, nibbana is not the object for all this mundane consciousness. No matter how you can think about it, you can discuss over it, but you have not come any near to realization of this cessation of dukkha or nibbana. Number four here is the path leading to the cessation of dukkha. Now this one is the Noble Eightfold Path, dukkha nirodha gamini patipada. Now this one is to be cultivated, is to be developed, bhavitapa. Now, here are the Four Noble Truths. And normally when... can you all hear me? Are you all clear enough? Okay. All right. Here the dukkha... I mean, for those who cannot hear me, I think you all need to use... either an external speaker or you need to use a earphone. Sometimes the phone from the speaker from your laptop, or sometimes the older laptop, the power is not so good, or sometimes in the older phones the speaker from the phone also may not be so good. So sometimes you need to this one. And okay. So now let us get back to this one. Normally, when we go through this Four Noble Truths, we go through 1, 2, 3, and 4, something like that. But for a meditator, you want to develop the meditation. Then we don't go through like this. We go from number 4. We start from number 4 so that we can able to see number 1. So that while we see number 1, we prevent that number 2 from coming up. We abandon the number 2 from coming up. Then when everything is well developed, then you see number 3. This is how things are doing. In fact, if you start off with this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, again, the Buddha also start off with the Noble Eightfold Path. Then only after that it comes down the Four Noble Truths. And of course, when it comes to the Four Noble Truths, it repeats again on the Noble Eightfold Path. So therefore, when we come in as a meditator, is this number 4 that we have to take a lot. We have to understand a lot because we need to develop what is not there in the first place. Mindfulness is not there. Concentration is not there, effort is not there. Then when we develop these things, this mindfulness, what are we trying to direct the mind towards to? Then we direct the mind towards the developed mind, the noting mind, the mind that pays attention, the mind that sees things as they really are, to see what? To see the mind and the bodily process. And what is mind and bodily process? Mind and bodily process, inherently, they are dukkha. So when we develop the mind, we develop the mind further and further, then we directly see the true nature of this mind and bodily process. We see their characteristics. We see their change. We see their change. We see their dukkha aspect. We see their anatta aspect. So it has to be fully understood. It's fully known. Dukkha here is not for us to be abandoned, but this is where most of us wants to abandon dukkha rather than the origin of dukkha, because we don't like the pain. We want to get rid of the pain. We don't like the pandemic. We want to get rid of the pandemic. We want to get rid of all kinds which is unpleasant to us, or even we attach to whatever is pleasant to us. We are not able to see it directly. Later part, we'll discuss a little bit more. So here is where when you begin, when you start to meditate, that is where you start with number 4. All the number 1, 2, 3, 4, if you go by that, and that is in the beginning part, you have all the theory already. All the theory, everything is there. But when you start the meditation, is where the number 4 start first. To see truly the number 1, so that while you see the number 1, you push away or you abandon the number 2, the origin of the dukkha, or the craving, or all the hindrances also. Then when all is fully developed, then the cessation or the nibbana is realized. Now also in the beginning, and also a number of in the talks in the beginning part, then I also introduced this, the meaning of each and every of those things, the 16 meanings of this of the Four Noble Truths. I have all these 16 meanings. Now, so what is the meaning of dukkha? The meaning of dukkha here is oppressing, being formed, burning, changing. The word oppressing here is normally what we associated with dukkha, because this is very painful. This is very unpleasant. It's terrible, hard to bear. Then being formed. What is being formed? The mind and body is being formed. That means there are formation, there are mental formation, there are physical formation. The moment that is being formed, because it has the characteristics already, therefore when they have the characteristic, therefore inherently there will be anicca, dukkha, and anatta. You're being formed. Because here, any of the mental and physical process, when they are there, that means they are dukkha. Burning. Another one is burning is also the kind of oppressing also. But this one is like you feel the body or feel the mind is just really like the word itself, burning, very hot in that sense. Sometimes, especially like when you're going through a fever or something like that. But the word burning here, truly, when you go to woeful states like hell and so on, then that will be the true burning. The burning cannot finish. But that one, don't worry about it. We try to get out of all these things. Then here another one is changing. Change. Here the word changing means that nothing stays forever. Just like when there's impermanent. When impermanent is there, when the changing is there, therefore dukkha will be there. The word change. Things will always keep on changing. Now, the word dukkha here, the meaning of it, this is where the yogis, they have to directly see all these things. Not only just meaning of it, but actually you are seeing it in your own practice. Like for example, oppressing. What do you see as oppressing? Pain in the buttock, pain here, pain there. You try to note this and it is oppressing. And sometimes when you are going a bit more deeper into the meditation, you see things are being formed. Like things before that there was not there. But then after that it arises. When it arises, you look at it, it goes into changing. Then after that, you find it very unpleasant, very miserable in that sense. Then you see another way of dukkha. So as you go into the development of all this insight, then I mentioned a number of times that you will not see dukkha in one way. You will see dukkha in countless ways. You will see impermanence in countless ways. You will see anatta also in countless ways. In so many ways that is trying to show you the true nature of dukkha. So therefore, we fully understood, directly seen, to see things as they really are. That is to see that we're trying to see into the true nature of all this dukkha. Here, dukkha also, it's fall under your happiness, our happiness, and neutral feelings and so on falls into this also, because initially, especially when you are meditating, you see these pleasant feelings, then you note on the pleasant feelings, then you notice that the pleasant feelings also change. They don't last forever. It change, it disappear, then it comes again, then it change again. Then we see the true nature of dukkha. Origin. Origin meaning of accumulating. What does it accumulate? Accumulate your karma, your wholesome and unwholesome karma, because it still can able to create karma while you are still in samsara. Even sometimes, a lot of times, not sometimes, a lot of times when we do wholesome deeds also, behind it there also craving. It's still there. And therefore, it accumulates, the karma still being generated. Then what is the source? The source is the meaning, is the origin itself. The source is the source for your suffering to come. What does it mean by bondage? That means it bonds you. Where? It bonds you in samsara. Sometimes it gives you happiness, but it recycle you around from heaven state, from Brahma, you come down, you go to hell again, you go to animal kingdom, you come up to human, then it cycle you up again, everywhere, but it keep you in samsara, bondage, finally. Impeding, that means it impedes your progress. To further development. So this is the meaning here. Cessation of meaning of escape. Here, what does it escape? Escape from the samsara, escape. Or escape from the five aggregates, escape. Escape from dukkha, escape. Seclusion. What does it mean by seclusion? Here, the seclusion here, that means that the craving cannot touch. Craving here cannot touch, or the five aggregates cannot touch. Okay? The five aggregates also cannot touch. Unformed. Then here, unformed is the nature of, or the characteristics of nibbana. Here, unformed and deathlessness, it's another word is arising and passing away. Therefore, in unformed, that means there's no arising. Deathlessness, that means there's no passing away. So therefore, here, when there's no arising and no passing away, that is to say there is no five aggregates, because all kinds of five aggregates, they are having the nature of arising and passing away. When there's an arising and passing away, then therefore there will be dukkha. And here, nibbana is without arising and without passing away. Sometimes so they call it unformed or deathlessness. Okay. Now, the path. The path meaning of outlet. What does it mean by outlet here? Here, when you develop the Noble Eightfold Path, or you cultivate all kinds of wholesome states of mind over time again and again, then this outlet, then these states of mind will direct you towards Nibbana. That means it goes out from samsara. It goes out from the five aggregates. It leads you out from the five aggregates. But as I said earlier on, this path here, or this quality of the Noble Eightfold Path, it has to be directed into seeing dukkha. If you develop mindfulness, or concentration or effort, and you don't direct it to seeing the true nature of dukkha, then this is not an outlet. For example, if you develop samatha meditation and you want to develop samatha meditation only, although your concentration is powerful, your mindfulness is powerful, but this is not an outlet. It's not an outlet. It's not for the getting out of cycle of birth and rebirth. So the path here, the meaning of outlet, but because it's looking into the true nature of dukkha. Here they also as a cause. Cause here means that you arouse them, you develop them, you arouse them, so that when the mind is fully developed, then the cessation of dukkha will take place. Seeing, the word seeing is noting. The noting itself that you are doing in your meditation, that you pay attention. You pay attention to every of your object that arises and passing away, and how the rising, falling, heart pain, soft pain, this pain, thinking, planning, or you start noticing those things, and this is what you see, what the quality of the mind that able to see the true nature of things. What does it see? It sees into the mind and bodily process, and the mind and bodily process, they are in a way dukkha. Predominance. Predominance means that these are the qualities. You need this quality in order for you to achieve liberation or achieve cessation of dukkha. Here, predominance, that means, like, for example, you need like sila. You do not have sila, you cannot. Some people, they say that, oh, I want to do meditation only, but sila, I don't want to take care. I don't want to bother about my sila. I don't want to bother about morality. I just want to meditate on it. So you cannot. All those things has to be coming together. And sometimes there are people who think that, oh, I just read the books, read the suttas, and so on, and then I'll be enlightened already. There's no development of anything at all. Then you thought that just by reading and you can able to get your liberation already. There's nothing developed. There's nothing much there. So predominance here, that means you have to cultivate those things properly. Do as best as you can, do as much as you can, so that the cessation able to be seen, to be realized. So this is the meaning here, all their meanings. Now, so this is on the overall of the Four Noble Truth a little bit. And then we go into a more of a specific area of the Four Noble Truth. Then we look into the First Noble Truth. Now, this is the qualities that usually the Buddha mentioned, or sometimes he doesn't mention everything. Sometimes he just mentioned 1, 2, or 3, or 4, and then he says those are dukkha. Sometimes the Buddha also mentioned 1, 2, and 4 only, minus number 3. Birth, aging, and death only. No illness. Because sometimes, why? Because when you talk to the devas don't have illness like all of us. As I said, the Buddha, sometimes when he gave Dhamma talk, it all depends on the audience. If the audience is the devas, then you just minus off the illness because they don't have. And also sometimes when there are some people also in the world, they are lucky enough, they don't have much of illness. As much as they have is this sneezing only, achoo, and that's it. They call it illness already. There are people like that, just anyway. Here, although we have 1 to 13 here, you can go through all those things. I don't have to go through all those things anymore because this is not a beginner's class. Beginner's class, maybe you can talk about all these things. The problem is with all of us, no matter how much we listen to this Four Noble Truths, we are neither here nor there. What enlightenment are you talking about? No, nothing. How many times we listen to talks about birth is suffering, aging is suffering, or aging is dukkha, and so on. How much does it impact us? How much does it impact us? And truly, just by listening to it, during like some of the people during the Buddha's time, just by listening to this talks only, then after that they get enlightened already. Now here we don't have these people anymore. We talk about this birth thing, then no. Take for example this number 1, birth. Now we say yes, birth is suffering. Now, wait till your child, your son or your daughter is going to give birth to your grandchild and granddaughter, or grandson or your granddaughter. That time, you think of it as celebration, or you think of it as suffering? You tell me honestly. If your son is giving, your daughter is giving birth to your granddaughter, and then this is a time to celebrate. We don't think like the Bodhisattva, You know the Bodhisattva, the Gautama Bodhisattva, before he became a Buddha. Then when the Yasodhara gave birth to Rahula, and then the Bodhisattva gave the name Rahula. You know what's the meaning of Rahula? Rahula means bondage, fetter. It's a very inauspicious name. We know, we all, when we give birth, we go and look at the calendar. If you are Chinese, you go and look at the Chinese calendar, so which this name is going to be the right one, and so on. What is the auspicious name for the person? We don't give them all this type of Rahula thing. Although, of course, Rahula turned out to be an Arahant, which is wonderful. But imagine the time the Bodhisattva have that inclination and seeing that birth is already in the kind of suffering. But really, for us, we don't. We celebrate. We celebrate. We celebrate every birthday also. Oh, talking about birthday, yes. Nowadays, of course, when it comes to your birthday cake, and you put your birthday candle on top of it, and then after that you sing your birthday song, I wonder now who dare to eat the cake right now. Who dare to eat the cake right now nowadays? Anyway, all these things. Number 1 to number 12, it's that you have gone through all these things. What are we interested is the number 13. This is the number 13 is where if we cannot able to get liberated just by understanding from number 1 to number 12, then we have to go to number 13 in order to get ourselves liberated. Number 1 to number 12, it's for us, especially for us, if we cannot get liberated just by knowing of all these things, and we cannot get enlightenment because knowing by all these things, but nevertheless, we can have sense of urgency by understanding this. That you're going to have sorrow, you're going to have death, you're going to have mental, and then we turn these things into a sense of urgency so that we can able to develop the mind to understand it further in order for us to get liberated in the future. So number 1 to number 12, for all of us, I would say, we cannot, as I said, you cannot get liberated with this. So we have to turn to number 13, the 5 aggregates of clinging. This is the one that we really need. Now, this is the one. So, 5 aggregates of clinging. How do we go through these 5 aggregates of clinging? Then here we have, what is the 5 aggregates of clinging? The 5 aggregates here begin with the materiality. That means for your meditation is your body. Then after that you have the feelings, you have your perception, then you have mental formation, then after you have consciousness. The 5 aggregates of clinging. We don't just say 5 aggregates only, but it's the 5 aggregates of clinging, is the clinging that give rise to the suffering. If 5 aggregates without the clinging, then not really. Then it become not really in the context of suffering. But anyway, when you have 5 aggregates, it comes with the clinging. And then therefore there will be suffering. The Arahants, they still have 5 aggregates without the clinging. Do they still suffer? Yes, they still suffer. In a certain way, they still suffer. That means they still have bodily pain. They still have bodily pain especially, Then they have those things. Okay. Now, what do we do with these 5 aggregates? So, here when we meditate, again here we direct our mind towards the 5 aggregates. Other words, to the mind and bodily process, in order to understand their true nature of things as they really are, so that when we get enlightened, then we cut off the rebirth part of it. And then after that, when you don't have birth, if you don't have number 1, then number 2, number 3, number 4 don't come in. And then the rest don't come in. In future. Anyway, so we need to look into these 5 aggregates. But anyway, these 5 aggregates is just mind and bodily process. You just put it as mind and bodily process. It's easier for us as a meditator to look into all these things. Now, in the practice, when we look into dukkha, we look into not just the painful type of dukkha, but we have to understand that there are 3 levels of dukkha. Although, and mostly when I'm giving a talk on dukkha, and it's connected to meditator, then we talk about these 3 types of dukkha, because it is helpful for the yogis to understand. You can categorize dukkha in many different ways. You can, for example, they call it internal dukkha or external dukkha, or you can categorize it as concealed dukkha or exposed dukkha. Concealed means people cannot see. You only know yourself. Exposed means you can see. Others also can see. For example, if you fall down, you broke you have blood coming out and so on. Then people can see. Internally, for example, you broke your ribs. For example, people cannot see your broken ribs unless they have X-ray or MRI and so on. That's the different thing. But directly see, you cannot see. So that one is another category of dukkha. But we are not so interested in those category of dukkha. As a meditator, as a yogi, this category will be more useful to all of you. Because it's connected with all these 3 types of feelings, and you will see them as you progress in the development of vipassana. Firstly, dukkha. In the Pali word, when there's a double word together like that, that means they are enhanced. And the word itself is enhanced. That means if it's dukkha, that means it's kind of like a suffering type of dukkha, the painful type of dukkha. Therefore, here it connected with all kinds of unpleasant feelings. It can be mental, it can be physical. Mental unpleasant feelings here, there are, for example, when you are angry, when you are jealousy, when you're having anxiety, when you're having depression, those type of mental feelings. And when you have a painful dukkha, when you broke your arm and so on, those are painful dukkha. When you're sick and so on, painful dukkha. When you meditate also, normally when you meditate, usually it's the first dukkha, the unpleasant feelings will be the most prominent. And also when you go through your meditation, it's actually the first one, first one, second one, third one. Because the neutral feelings, they are the most subtle. The unpleasant feeling is the gross one. So therefore, when you go into meditation, when you start your meditation as a beginner, you will see a lot of pain. Here pain, there pain, why every day pain, why every sitting pain. So you have to go through and you have to keep your mind there. Pay attention to all these unpleasant feelings. Because why? Unpleasant feelings is part of the 5 aggregates. And they are the aggregates of feelings. So you have to see them as they truly are. So don't run away. Don't try to hide the feelings. Don't try to cover up the feelings. Don't try to move your buttock. Don't try to move your leg. Don't try to push here and there to just run away from your pain. This is number 1, dukkha. Viparinama dukkha. Dukkha due to change. Here, dukkha due to change, this is more subtle because it's connected with pleasant feelings. Now, sometimes after usually after some time when you're able to progress in your meditation, then there will be some pleasant feelings coming in. After that, later we'll talk about it a little bit more. When these pleasant feelings comes in, if you don't note it, you just relish it, you just get enjoy it, then after that you get stuck with it. Your craving just grip on you without you knowing it. But if you pay attention to it, you pay attention to these pleasant feelings that is coming in, then you pay attention to it, then later part you see that these pleasant feelings, they are changing. After that, you don't feel the pleasant anymore. It kind of like disappear, it goes into neutral feelings, or you go into unpleasant feelings. Or sometimes even the pleasant feelings can even more stronger. But after that, when you look at it further, it will still disappear. Sankhara dukkha. This one is even more subtle type of feelings, and is even deeper aspect of your meditation. You will see this sankhara dukkha. Dukkha here, dukkha due to formation, due to the bodily and mental formation. Now here is connected with a lot of neutral feelings. Now later when you go into when you develop further into the vipassana, much more deeper into the vipassana, then that unpleasant feelings may not touch you that much. Also, the pleasant feelings also don't touch you that much. You can able to notice your object kind of like very in the neutral sense, very balanced state of mind, and you can able to notice all your objects. But while you're seeing it also, you're seeing that they are also in the sense that they are changing, and also not changing, but every time it formed. Every time you see something that is coming up, something that you see that is going to go into formation, then you see that it is unpleasant. You see that it is really unpleasant. And that one is connected to the neutral feelings. So don't think of dukkha as just pain here, pain there, sick here, illness here and there. They are so much more deeper. Now, here, one of these pleasant feelings is difficult for us to see, but when we come into the development of meditation, then later part, I think I got time. Later part, a bit later, I'm going to show you a little bit more, on this pleasant, connected with these pleasant feelings. Now, this is something that I thought about. So you develop your mindfulness, everything, in order to see onto this dukkha, viparinama, dukkha, sankhara, dukkha. Okay, all right, next one. We go into the craving, the second noble truth. In this, sorry. Let me go back to this one. Slightly smaller, a little bit. Okay. All right. Now, when you go to the second noble truth, now what's the second noble truth meaning? Hold on. Now, the meaning of this is accumulating, source, bondage, impeding. Good. We're going to see how this craving is accumulating and how we're going to abandon this craving, at least temporarily. For a period of time, we need to abandon them in order for the insight and everything to arise. So first of all, we look into the craving. There are 108 types of craving. That's why this craving, no matter how you turn, how you do, what you do, how you think, you cannot free from it. It is there all the time. Or not to say all the time, but when it is, the condition is there, you just bring up no matter from which senses that you have. Let us start with this. 6 sense objects. Craving for visual objects, craving for sound, craving for odors, craving for taste, craving for bodily impressions, and craving for mind objects or mental objects. Okay. Now here it shows that all our 6 sense bases, all our 6 sense doors, this craving and all these objects, and they come in, there are, if you are not careful, and usually we are not careful, we are not mindful, then this craving comes in and grip us without us knowing it. Now this craving is, you don't see it everyday type of this one, because this craving is subtle. The other word which is connected with craving is usually we call upadana, clinging. That clinging is the one that you see in your everyday life. But craving is one step below it. That's why it's difficult to see. But anyway, we're going to look into it a short while. Now, when you have this craving, then it spread further into 3 kinds of craving. There's sensual craving, then there's becoming and non-becoming, kama tanha, bhava tanha, and vibhava tanha. Normally, when we talk about the second noble truth, the origin of, or the source of our suffering, or source of our dukkha, then usually we look into these 3. And it's good enough actually if we look into these 3. But in order to show that how this craving, it is embedded in all ways, in all our senses, then we have to show you all these 108 ways. Then with this each type of craving, then again it's extrapolate into internal of oneself and extrapolate to external, another. When you see others craving and so on. Then here it goes into again separate, it goes into extrapolate again into 3 periods of past, present and future. That means everything together, there'll be all 108. So sensual craving, you have past sensual pleasure, you have present sensual pleasure, you have future sensual pleasure. Internally, externally, it's connected with your, say, from your eyes, from your sight, or from your sound. Then one of it can come up. It can be like becoming. What do you mean by a becoming? What do you mean by non-becoming? So here, when we come into the third noble truth, second noble truth, the sensual desire, the sensual pleasures, the becoming and non-becoming. Now here, what it means here is this. The sensual pleasures here is those are your ordinary like sensual desire. When you desire of food, for example, you desire of entertainment or music and so on. Those are your sensual desire that you hold on to it. That one is, I mean, most of you can understand it quite well. Becoming here, it also a kind of like a tanha, but it is not so obvious. What is becoming means that you want something to be there, or you want something to exist. For example, you want, then people sometimes they ask, hey, what type of next rebirth you want? You want a heaven rebirth? Which heaven you want to go? Then becoming. Although it is, you do a lot of wholesome deeds, you arise there. Then this is what we desire, what we want. That is called becoming. Then, for example, when you are meditating, when the pleasant feelings is there, and it's not connected with all these sensual desires and so on. You just want it to be there. Why? Because it's pleasant. Because it's nice. Becoming. Or when it's not there, you want it to be there. It is not there, you want it to be there. That is also becoming. So a lot of things, it is becoming. Then with this, because it is not there, you want it to be there, or you don't realize that it is not there in the first place, and you think that it is there, is kind of a becoming also. For example, like the wrong views. The wrong view of a self or a soul. It is not there in the first place, but we wrongly think that it is there. Then we want it to be there. Then we attach to it, we hold on to it. That is also becoming. Bhava tanha. But this is tanha, but that one is already on the view side already. Anyway, non-becoming. You don't want it to be there. No. Put it this way. You want it not to be there. Because there's still a craving is there. You want it not to be there. For example, when you meditate, when your pain is very strong, what do you want to do? You move your leg a little bit. Why you want to move your leg? You want to get rid of the pain. So what you want to get rid of it? Because you don't want it to be there. You want it to be not to be there. Then why? Because you want something more pleasant. Non-becoming. Or sometimes this non-becoming can even go even further. For example, with all your anxiety, with all your depression, and your loss of hope, and you have a lot of despair. That's what for to live anymore in this life. Then you want to kill yourself, or you want to commit suicide. Then you commit suicide, you thought that everything is going to go over. You're going to end your suffering. And that also is called craving for non-becoming. You don't want it to be there. And that is, terrible. So there's so many ways we can look into all this craving. It's many ways. That time also I gave like when you start off with this craving, Then with this craving, tanha, then after that, because it repeated it again and again, then your mana comes up. That means your conceit arises. Your conceit, you think that you are better than others, you think that you are less than others, you think you are the same as others, you always compare to others. Then after that, with that, then the wrong view arises. Ditthi, micha ditthi. So from tanha, mana, ditthi, the craving, how does it grow further and further? This is just the beginning only. This is the origin only. This is the origin of dukkha only. We are not talking about the full-blown dukkha. We are not talking about the full-blown defilements here. This is the beginning of that dukkha already, which is craving. Now, what do I put? What else do I do? Here, yes. From this craving, it comes with all kinds of clinging. This is when it comes to clinging, is a very strong part already. Usually in between there's already has a mana or conceit here. So you have kama tanha, bhava tanha, bhava tanha. So with this, because it's being repeated again and again and again and again and again, which we don't have the mindfulness, when we don't have the mindfulness, when we don't realize it, and then it becomes your part of your thinking that this is my phone, this is my beloved ones, this is my things, this is my wealth, this is my life, this is my thinking, this is my intelligence, this is the way how my opinion is like. So with this we hold on to it strongly, and we don't realize it. As we hold on to it strongly, it becomes part of you. It become part of you in the sense that you hold on it as conceit already at this time. And when somebody challenge your views, for example, then you become very agitated. Because why? Because your view, you think that your view is better than others' view, which is conceit, which is a kind of a conceit here. So we have central desire, becoming and non-becoming. So when it becomes strong, and this conceit repeated again and again and again, then this clinging starts. Here we can see that. In the dependent origination, paticca samuppada, after craving is this clinging. Now, clinging here, this is where the sensual pleasures at its strongest. The strongest type of sensual pleasures here, that means you go into like drinking, sexual misconduct, and all kinds of attachment, hoarding mentality, and also like miserliness, stinginess. You cling on to all the things that you really want. Sensual pleasures, and then even with this kind of clinging, it's just like, for example, you go for good food. People can go far away for good food. That equals into sensual pleasures as in clinging. But it's in craving. It's just that there's a liking. There's a small liking is there. The small liking is there, but sensual pleasure is go full blown. You really want it already. Wrong views. Wrong views here is that now you see, number 2, number 3, number 4 is also a different way of different kinds of wrong view. Different kinds of wrong view. Here, when the craving starts, when it goes into this wrong view, wrong view, for example, like you don't accept the nature of karma and its vipaka. Karma and its vipaka. And then sometimes in the suttas also there are 10 types of wrong view. One of the wrong view is that, for example, is that when you give something, you don't believe that there will be a resultant of that giving. Or when you hurt your parents, your father or your mother, then you don't think that there is consequences that will be resultant in the future. So there is all various kinds of wrong view. Various kinds of wrong view. Now again here the rites and rituals as a wrong view also. Now here is a clinging to a certain view, but this one is connected to something that is external. That you believe that, for example, by a certain way of chanting, by just listening to certain chanting, then you can get enlightened. Rites and rituals. Here, this chanting one, it happened in Malaysian devotees. Just by listening to the chanting by some Sayadaw or some Ajahn or some Longpo, then you're already able to become enlightened. Also, like for example, like rites and ritual, they perform a lot of so what is it? A lot of celebration, a lot of events. Sometimes you have to go through some initiation in order for you to be enlightened and so on. So all these things are clinging to those rites and rituals. They believe that all these external things can help them. Sometimes when you look at some of the movies or stories about the Buddha's enlightenment and so on, and how the disciples get enlightenment and so on. Their enlightenment is that they have to seek for some kind of object. If they have that particular object, then they get enlightened already. Or sometimes in a certain culture also they have known of, they are very attached to a certain Buddha statue, for example. They attach that Buddha statue. If you pray to that Buddha statue, if you bow down to that Buddha statue, then that Buddha statue will have a special power for you. Not other Buddha statue. Other Buddha statue no power. This Buddha statue got power. And then people siao, become crazy. Oh, come, everybody come. This is happening in the world of Buddhist community. These rites and rituals, this is connected to enlightenment. Doesn't mean that all rites and rituals are wrong. If it's not connected to enlightenment, but it's just merely for the arousing of faith for other people or devotees, then it's not a bad thing. Not to say it's totally perfect, but it's not a bad thing. But as long as you don't take these rites and rituals and you connect it to your enlightenment, then it is fine. For example, like sometimes you may see monks, they go chanting and then they have holy water, put it out, chap. Then you all come nearer. Oh, you want to be blessed by the holy water, especially in the beginners of the Buddhism, and the beginners or very Buddhist. My name only one. They love these type of things. They live, and you say that this is wrong. I wouldn't say that this is wrong. Whether you say that it's perfect, correct, I wouldn't say that it's perfect, correct. But it is useful for that group of people. Because if you do that, then this group of people may have faith may have come up, and when their faith come up, then they are able to go and see more monks, and then they listen to the talks, and then they read, and then their better type of faith starts also. Yeah? So that one may not be totally bad. But this time, but the one with the clinging to the rites and rituals, when you think that this rites and ritual will give you enlightenment, this rite and ritual will give you special power, and so on and so forth, without development of anything, then that will be a clinging, a very strong clinging. Number 4, the self-doctrine. This is the self-doctrine is that it's connected to the 5 aggregates. Connected to the 5 aggregates. You think there might be a self in any one of the aggregates. For example, this self-doctrine here, it can divide it into 20 types of wrong view connected with these 5 aggregates. The 20 types. Anyway, we don't want to go through all those things. Take for example, one of it is that they think that there is a self, there is a soul, or there is something that is unchanging. Now, this unchanging thing, this soul thing, is located in the body. Now, this one is connected with the aggregate of the body, physical aggregate. It's connected with the body here, and it is lodged inside that body. So when you die, when your body no more, that thing will come out into the world and so on. Or sometimes they may think that the soul or the self is outside this body. It's not inside, but it's kind of like your aura type of thing, it's surrounding you. Then sometimes people think that they look into certain photo and then you see got aura thing. Oh, this must be the person's personality, the person's self, and all that thing. That is wrong view. Kind of like a attachment, clinging to all this type of wrong view, which is connected with a self, a soul, or something that is unchanging. So in many ways, this craving arises. What else do I have? Oh yes, perfection of insight. Do I have a time? Okay. Now just before we go, now as I said that these things, make sure that you don't go into too much of wrong view. Most of us, we have sensual desire, which is sensual pleasure, we understand that. But make sure that you don't a slave of the sensual pleasures. But the worst than sensual pleasure is this 2, 3, and 4 is the wrong view. That is most terrible one, this one. So try not to go into it too much. And then the number 1, the sensual pleasures in clinging, you try to reduce it as much as you can. Number 2, 3, and 4, try not to fall into it. And then, as a meditator, this is where one of the talks I mentioned about it. I think 1 or 2 talks I mentioned about it. And also during the retreats also I talk about all this vipassana upaklesa, the imperfection of insight. And this one connected to pleasant feelings and neutral feelings. Nothing much on pain and so on. This is imperfection of insight. Here it means that when you are meditating, take for example, there is a piti arises, or the joy or a zest or rapture arises. When this type of arises, it gives you your body like very pleasant, very nice, very alert, very, sometimes it like give you a cocoon like of joy, it's like envelop you inside there. And when you meditate inside there, before that you see a lot of pain, and now the joy comes up. Don't you think that you're going to cling into it? For a lot of people, they have that. They cling into it without they realizing it. So the craving itself, now is the craving itself, which is the number 10, the delight or attachment. The word is nikanti, but another word of it is tanha. And this tanha, it's attached to this joy in terms of pleasantness. And if that number 2 is not good enough, when you come to number 3, is even more subtle part of bliss. This is a pure pleasant feelings that develop from meditation. This one is not like outside you can get it. This is while you are in meditating, and you go and attach to it. And attachment to it becomes imperfection of insight. If you don't attach to it, it is part of the development. It is not imperfection. All this number 1 to number 9, they are part of your development. The problem is the tanha that is attached to any one of it. Then it becomes imperfection. That means your vipassana will get stagnant there. If you do not know how to undo this craving or nikanti at the number 10. So even with this, it can go subtle, and sometimes even like your strong mindfulness, which we really need it for our meditation, and yet there are yogis also attached to this mindfulness also. For example, when it attached to this mindfulness, the yogi think that, right now, today I'm very mindful. You look at other yogis, you see they are not so mindful. You say, I'm so mindful right now. Which is, you are mindful, yes. But you forget that your craving towards that mindfulness is already happening. Why? Because your conceit already arises. Your conceit already arises, and you want to compare to other yogis, that you think that you are better than them in terms of your mindfulness. Or in terms of your exertion, number 6, you can sit there, you can able to withstand you can sit still, all the pain come in, you can meditate. After that, when you get up, you feel good. And you see other yogis, they are moving here and there. And then you look at them, they are not very good yogis. Why? Because your attachment to your exertion, that means your attachment to your effort right now. So all these things, we talk about it and we spend some time over it. That time we spend some time over it in order to make you understand that in vipassana too, all these things can come in, and when they come in, they can be very, very pleasant and very nice. So don't get attached to it. Don't fall into their traps. Okay? So here we'll stop here for tonight, and on the Friday, as I said, where there's no Q&A, Friday we will continue with the third noble truth and the fourth noble truth. We're going to wrap up on everything. Okay? Yes, so we'll stop here for tonight.